In the news tonight, Israeli forces attacked Palestinian protesters in the occupied West Bank in two separate demonstrations, opening fire on them and making arrests. The destruction of priceless antiquities in a museum in Iraq has drawn condemnation from UNESCO, which called on the UN Security Council to convene an emergency meeting to address the protection of Iraq's cultural heritage. And the German parliament overwhelmingly approved a 4-month extension of Greece's financial bailout, despite unease over the new government in Athens. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Here are the details. His Majesty the King said the video released by Daesh of the killing of Jordanian pilot Muad al-Kasasbeh, while meant to frighten Jordanians, it had the reverse effect. It only made the people angrier, but more united together behind their leadership in confronting the terrorist group. In an interview with CNN's Fareed Zakaria, which will be broadcast on Sunday, His Majesty said he refused to watch the video, calling it a propaganda. He said he was greatly saddened for the martyrs' family and for all members of the Jordan Armed Forces. The King told Zakaria that if you look at our history, we are a country that's used to being outgunned and outnumbered, and we've always punched way above our weight, adding that if anything, Daesh now has got us a tiger by a tail. The interview will be broadcast on Sunday. Clashes broke out between Palestinians and occupation forces in the West Bank during anti-Israeli protests. In Hebron, hundreds of Palestinians marked the 20th anniversary of the killing of 29 Palestinian worshippers at Al-Haram al-Ibrahimi by US-born settler Baruch Goldstein. Protesters took to the Shuhada Street, once the city's commercial hub, that Israel unilaterally closed in February 1994, and they called on Israel to open it. Scuffles broke out near the main gate of the closed street when occupation forces fired and threw stun grenades at the demonstrators. Several Palestinians were wounded and at least 2 were detained. Elsewhere and in the West Bank village of Berlin, dozens of Palestinians and international activists clashed with occupation forces during a protest marking the 10th anniversary of the village's struggle against the separation barrier Israel built. The protesters first gathered near the village's mosque to observe a commemoration display of photos and old Israeli munitions collected during 10 years of protest. They then marched on the Israeli barrier near the village, where clashes broke out when soldiers fired smoke grenades and tear gas canisters to break up the protest. Several people were arrested.
This is a very important struggle because it is a struggle of a small village that from day one opened its houses, opened its hearts to other people, to people from international community, to democratic Israelis who come here and together struggle and demonstrate against the confiscation, against the separation wall, against occupation.
The US-led coalition has launched 14 strikes against Daesh targets in Syria and Iraq since Wednesday morning. In a statement, the combined joint task force said 5 airstrikes were conducted in Syria, targeting Daesh tactical units near Al-Hasaka and fighting positions near Kobani. While in Iraq, 9 airstrikes were launched near Al-Asad, Fallujah, Mosul and other locations, hitting tactical units, buildings, vehicles and a training camp. The video footage released by Daesh terrorist group destroying the Assyrian-era exhibits in Mosul triggered worldwide condemnation. In the video released yesterday, the terrorists were shown attacking the artifacts, some of them identified as antiquities from the 7th century BC, with sledgehammers and drills. The terrorists also shoved stone statues off their plinths, shattering them on the floor. UNESCO said the attack on the collection of sculptures and statues was a deliberate attempt to destabilize the country and provoke sectarianism. While acknowledging UNESCO's capacity to act on the ground was limited, the Director General called for an emergency meeting of the Security Council to discuss the incident and the protection of Iraq's cultural heritage. The destruction of priceless artifacts by Daesh is not just a cultural tragedy, but a major security issue, UNESCO said.
I think the fact that they want to show that it's a tabula rasa, nothing exists before them. It doesn't matter. There is no culture, there is no history, there is no anything else that existed before. It's intended, and to show it in such a vivid manner, in such an appalling, I would say, shocking manner, is precisely they want to create deep divisions, they want to create an atmosphere of fear, an atmosphere where you cannot even think of reconciling cultures and to stir sectarianism in a country.
This is a crime, and we deny this crime. We condemn this crime. We should stop. We think only denying and condemning is not enough. We ask the Security Council and all the countries of the world to stand with Iraq, to support us with arms, with weapons, as much as the Mosul is occupied or any Iraqi land is occupied, the crimes will be continued.
Syrian Kurds from Kobani on the Syrian-Turkish border have started returning home as Kurdish forces repelled Daesh terrorists from the area. Some 1,700 Syrians hit the roads to cross the border from Turkey to return home. The border town was once home to 200,000 people, but was largely demolished by fighting between Kurdish fighters and Daesh terrorists. Almost the entire population of Kobani fled across the border to Turkey to escape the fighting, some to refugee camps, others staying with family and friends or heading to Turkish cities. Turkish Disaster Management Agency officials said that with the latest batch of Syrians, the number of those returning to Kobani has touched 7,000 in the past 10 days. The masked Jihadi John killer who fronted Daesh beheading videos has been identified as Mohammed Emwazi, a British computer programming graduate from a well-to-do London family who was known to the security services. The black-clad militant brandishing a knife and speaking with a British accent was shown in videos released by the terrorist group, apparently decapitating hostages. Emwazi's name was first disclosed by the Washington Post that reported Emwazi is believed to have traveled to Syria around 2012 and later joined Daesh. Emwazi was born in Kuwait but came to Britain aged 6 and graduated with a computer programming degree from the University of Westminster before coming to the attention of Britain's main domestic intelligence service, the MI5. British government sources and the police have so far refused to confirm or deny the report, citing a live anti-terrorism investigation. The German parliament approved an extension of Greece's bailout after Finance Minister Wolfgang Schäuble promised it would not be allowed to blackmail its Eurozone partners. Schäuble, however, had before voiced doubts about whether Athens can be trusted. With 542 lawmakers voting in favor, including almost all of Chancellor Angela Merkel's right-left coalition, plus the opposition Greens, it was the biggest majority for any Eurozone rescue package so far in the 631-seat chamber. Only 22 of 311 members of Merkel's bloc opposed it, and 5 abstained. The Bundestag vote was the only major parliamentary hurdle for a 4-month extension to the bailout program for the most heavily indebted country in the single currency zone.
We are a community in Europe, and this is the 21st century, and we Germans should do everything to keep Europe together as far as we can and bring it together again and again. Of course, solidarity does not mean that you can blackmail each other, but rather that everyone must make his contribution. I told myself not to be provoked by you today because it's too serious and because there is too much at stake.
Ukraine pulled back more heavy weaponry from the front lines in eastern Ukraine as the country reported the first deaths in 3 days, denting hopes a ceasefire would hold. Government troops fighting pro-Russian separatists in the east began towing artillery, a sign that Ukraine's military recognized a ceasefire meant to take effect on the 15th was at last holding. However, Ukraine's president kept open the possibility that troops and guns could return at any moment if pro-Russian separatists threatened a shaky truce. Here's more.
The weapons pullout is still underway in eastern Ukraine, though Kiev's forces worry the fighting with pro-Russian separatists could resume at any moment. Spokesman Andriy Lychenko says isolated skirmishes are threatening the already fragile ceasefire.
In the past 24 hours, 3 Ukrainian servicemen were killed, 7 were wounded.
But the separatists say they are abiding by the ceasefire, withdrawing their lethal Grad missile systems 15 kilometers from the front lines in accordance with the agreement struck earlier this month. Even so, Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko says the rebels cannot be trusted.
That is why at any time, at any moment, our servicemen are ready to return the weaponry to the previous positions and to repel the enemy within the shortest period of time.
Kiev and the West have accused Russia of arming the rebels. Moscow denies it. And now in eastern Ukraine, all eyes are on the front line.
Cyberspace was being consumed by a debate today over a picture of a dress that many claim is obviously white and gold, while others argue just as trenchantly is black and blue. So what color is the dress? The picture of the dress was uploaded on image-sharing website Tumblr on Wednesday and began as a debate between friends on what color it is, but has since gone global. Even A-list celebrities have waded in on the debate. Many have argued on social media that the marked difference in the perceived colors is to do with the way the brain perceives color. The science behind the reason why some people see black on blue, white, others see gold on white is that the picture is an optical illusion. So what color is the dress?
It's blue with black.
Blue and black.
Blue purpley kind of thing.
White and gold.
White and gold, yep.
How is that possible, really? This is weird.
Actually, the dress made by clothing company Roman Originals is in fact black and blue. And we go to Italy for the Milan Fashion Week. Giorgio Armani added an uncharacteristic splash of color to his Emporio Armani Diffusion line's Autumn-Winter 2015-2016 collection. Models sporting ruffled black bobs walked the runway in sharp trouser suits, tailored jackets and coat dresses. Ruffles and butterfly bows added a touch of femininity to the collection's masculine cuts and tailoring. In addition to the customary grey and black outfits, the winter look included bright reds and electric blues.
Sea lines black as waking me.
Italy's fashion powerhouse Prada presented a futuristic Autumn-Winter 2015-2016 collection with neoprene and pastels forming the bases. Models at the show navigated through rooms with steel elements and green and pink walls that formed a ship-like space. They wore their hair sleek, high ponytails, which were fastened with jeweled, flower-shaped pins. Sleeveless dresses were accessorized with gloves that ran up the arms, while the models carried boxy leather and crocodile motif handbags. An abundance of bows and brooches were used to decorate the outfits.
Mr. Jack Holtzman, contact the information counter, please.
Following last week's stunning home defeat by Malaga, a result which broke an 11-game winning run, Barcelona responded by beating Manchester City 2-1 in the first leg of their Champions League in Manchester on Tuesday. Tomorrow, Barca will face Granada, and coach Luis Enrique rejected the idea that it will be an easy 3 points for his team. Barcelona have won 6 of the last 7 meetings between the teams. However, in the corresponding fixture last season, Granada won 1-0. Gerard Piqué will be missing tomorrow's match through suspension, meaning summer signing Mathieu is likely to step up. Barca are second in La Liga, 4 behind leaders Real Madrid, while Granada are in 19th place. FIFA President Sepp Blatter said the World Cup final in Qatar in 2022 should be played no later than December 18. Blatter said he would propose that idea to the FIFA Executive Committee when it meets next month. The most vociferous reaction to staging a Winter World Cup game came from Europe's major clubs, and in particular the English Premier League. UEFA this week said it wanted the World Cup to start on November 26 and end on December 23rd, 2 days before Christmas.
Now this working group or task, it's not the first day that I have said, it is more than 1.5 years ago, that we cannot play in summer. Now this working group or task force, they come with this proposal. It will be presented to the FIFA Exco. No doubt the FIFA Exco will make the decision that we will play November, December. No, they are not so furious. You know, they are not so very happy, and it's so good now to make a little bit noise about FIFA and about the World Cup in Qatar. But finally, now there are more than 6 years, particularly 7 years, to prepare that, and there is a goodwill. There will be a solution, and I'm sure everybody will be fine at the end.
And finally, a quick look at the weather forecast. It will be cold tonight in most regions, with southeasterly moderate to brisk winds stirring dust in the Badia region. Over the coming 3 days, the kingdom will be affected by a moist air mass, though tomorrow a slight drop in temperature is expected, whereby it will remain mild across the kingdom. The Gulf of Aqaba can expect chilly conditions tonight, but warm tomorrow, while winds will be southerly moderate and the seas slightly choppy. Here now is a look at temperatures forecast for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, here's a reminder of the day's top stories. Israeli forces attacked Palestinian protesters in the occupied West Bank in 2 separate demonstrations, opening fire on them and making arrests. The destruction of priceless antiquities in a museum in Iraq has drawn condemnation from UNESCO, which called on the UN Security Council to convene an emergency meeting to address the protection of Iraq's cultural heritage. And the German parliament overwhelmingly approved a 4-month extension of Greece's financial bailout, despite unease over the new government in Athens. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Alia Tuqan. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow.